What's up guys, Rob from Miles, and I've got a quick maintenance tip for the Miles Rampage, how to tighten the belt so that they don't slip. That's something with a belt motor board that you're gonna have to do occasionally because as you ride, the belts will stretch and eventually you need to replace them. Today we're gonna talk about how to adjust them so that they don't slip when you're riding. So what you need for this is the 2.5 millimeter Allen key. Should have been included with this bag with the skate tool in it in your box. And the first thing we're going to do is just remove the guard here, the belt guard. And you can use the short end to start if that bolt is really tight. So stick that in and loosen these bolts. Once it's out, you can use the long end. All right. Now you've got access to the belt and the entire motor mount here. So what you're looking for is, this belt is actually really well adjusted. It is a brand new board, but you're looking for between 4 and 8 millimeters of play here on this belt in the middle. This one's got about 3 to 4 millimeters, so it's actually quite good. I don't think that belt's gonna slip. For me, that's really good. For the bigger folks out there, or if you're really pushing the acceleration, braking hard, you may want to run it a little bit tighter. The tighter the belt gets, the less efficient the motor will be because there's a little bit more drag on it. So it is a trade-off between how efficient it is and how hard you ride and how much those belts slip. Once they do start slipping, the belts will wear out though, so you really want to adjust it and ride so that the belts will not slip. So this one actually is good. I shouldn't have even taken that off. That one's good. This other side though is a bit looser. So I'm gonna adjust that one so you guys can see exactly how to do it. Same thing here. Okay. So if you look at this belt, I've got quite a bit of play here. This is a good 12 millimeters, which is outside of that range. So that one definitely needs to be tightened up, and let me show you how to do that. So the first thing you're going to need to do is loosen this motor. However, you'll notice I've got the 8-inch wheels here, and there's 4 bolts here. The wheel is actually kind of in the way of these 2 inside bolts. If you have the board with 6.5-inch wheels, you can probably do this without removing the wheel. Since I've got the 8-inch one, I've got to remove that wheel first. So easy fix. Let's do that. So you want to put these in a safe place, and you could just pull the wheel right off the spindle here. Set that aside. Now we've got access to all 4 bolts. Again, if you have the 6.5-inch wheel board, you probably won't need to pull the wheel off because we've got the 8-inch. That's a big help. Now I'm going to loosen these motor mounts. You only need to go a couple turns here just so that it's loose enough that the motor can move freely in the slides. Okay, so now you notice I can slide this motor around. So if I pull it all the way this way, that belt is really tight. So what I'm gonna do is apply tension to the motor. I can kind of just grip it this way to a point where I'm happy with the belt tension, and then tighten these 4 bolts up to lock it in place. So what I'm gonna do here is do that by hand. I'm gonna push on this, and I'm gonna look at how much this is moving. You want basically about the width of a pencil. maybe a little bit less than that. That'll be about 4 or 5 millimeters. So that's a pretty good tightness for me right there. I'm gonna hold it there and then tighten these down in a diagonal pattern to start. And you can keep testing that tension as you tighten them down, because it will move a little bit as you tighten them down. It's come a little bit tighter, so I'm actually going to loosen it up a little bit when I tighten it. So there we go at the good spot again, and I'll crank these bolts one more time now that I'm happy with the belt tension. That's pretty good. Oh yeah, that's great. Now I'll do the other diagonal bolts. Being careful to hold the motor in place while I make the adjustment. Okay, now these have been tightened with the long end. You can't get a lot of torque on it that way, so I use the short end just to finish these up by hand. Another 1/8 of a turn or so to really lock it in place. You don't want to go so hard that the screw will damage the plastic sliders here, but you also don't want to go so loose that they'll come out. The belts are kind of in the way here for these ones on the inside, so I'll just put a little bit more torque into it with the long end here. Use those finger muscles. All right. Now that belt's adjusted, and we'll reinstall the guard. So that guard's secure. I'm gonna put the wheel back on. Right in place. Speed ring after the bearing. When you're tightening this, you can spin the wheel, make sure there's no drag induced by the bolt. If it's too tight, it's going to squeeze on that wheel, cause a little drag. All right, I'm happy with that. And I'll just get the other side protector that I removed earlier. Now that you've tightened the belts, you can check. Give it a good spin. Make sure everything's secure in there. And I really recommend, since you're here already, to give the board a good look over. You can check the four nuts holding the motors on here, holding the motor mounts on. I would really give everything a check anytime you change the belts or anything like that. That's a great time to check all your other hardware. Make sure things are tight, because there's a lot of vibrations on the road. Things can loosen up, so you want to make sure everything's dialed in, tight and secure for your next ride.